I'd like to let Scamp off the lead. Unfortunately, he's a true terrier, and these sheep that have found their way into these local fields, they run free, these sheep. They obviously belong to somebody, but they just graze wherever they like, which is predominantly the way in the South Wales valleys. Well, he'd chase them down. He'd be over that fence in no time. So he's definitely not a dog that you can allow to run free where there's sheep around, which does restrict him a bit. But most of the time up here, it's sheep free and he loves to run. So we have to take him a bit further afield at the moment to enable him to get his full exercise. But he has been away for a couple of days running around, so he's not done too bad. I know, don't be alarmed. This neck brace is, well, just making me behave really. It makes sure that I don't lift anything too heavy because it's a constant reminder, and it also keeps my neck in a really good position. So it's precautionary. Thanks to everybody for their concern. Don't be. I'm making a good recovery. I'm just doing all the sensible things now. It's not going to stop me being on the plot. It's just going to stop me doing any heavy lifting, which is a good thing, whilst my neck's not, well, fully up to speed. So I will be carrying on. Well, my mole friends have come back, and it'll be interesting over the coming months because they won't have the same path opportunities and grass opportunities that they've got at the moment. We'll see how they get on. Right, so no heavy lifting today. I think I might start to strip down the beans. They've certainly done really well, but they're now getting a bit on the tough side. So that's a job I can do without leaning down too much, and certainly needs to be done. It always looks so different once the beans are down, so I might do it in a couple of stages. Do it at standing level to start with, and perhaps do the lower level a bit later on. Well, I went through 3 buckets there. One bucket had one enormous potato in, and the rest were, well, a really good crop of shallots. Look at that. And they'll make a few good meals over the coming days. Good times. Well, the purple sprouting broccoli is really moving on now. Really strong plants. Staked like this, they do so much better. And, well, you can see the remnants of the chewed leaves, but I think with the frosts that we've had, we've probably said goodbye to the current caterpillar population, and well, that's a good thing. They can get on now and do what they're supposed to do, which is grow lovely purple sprouting broccoli in the early winter months. Looking at the cage that I set up here, and this is very removable and movable, so it's going to stay there for a while. But I noticed down here, look at the seed that's sprouting in this soil, and we've got a few fungi as well, but just thousands of little seedlings. So I am just going to drag through here with the oscillating hoe. And if you want to see a bit of a feature of oscillating hoes, well, Danny's got something planned, so keep an eye on his channel, the Grapevine Garden Allotment. Right, let's put the hoe through that. It's kind of interesting that I don't often think about being sort of physically restricted, but I guess there are a lot of gardeners who are taking care for one reason or another because they've got an injury or a weakness in part of their body. And well, it's driven it home for me that those gardeners must have to take great care. And you know, clearly I'm taking care of my neck at the moment, but a tool like this oscillating hoe, is a fantastic tool for anybody who's got weaknesses, because it requires so little effort to just cut through the surface and you're not bending down. It's not really very strenuous, that's for sure, unless you've got some particularly tough soil, but it's doing the job of weeding in a really simplistic way by just churning up the roots of the weeds. And there we are. I'm being particularly careful, but I'll be able to weed this in probably under a minute just by going over the top. It might mean that you have to do this more often and keep an eye on beds, but it certainly enables you to do it simply. And all the effort is coming from my arms at the moment rather than my back and any other part of my body. So fantastic. So this is a harvest of sorts. It's a harvest of seed for next year. And well, I do love this Tsar bean, as many of you know. And I can start to look in here now and see where I've got some pretty sizable beans that have got a nice swelling seed in the middle. And most of them are lower down, but there we are, there's a good example. Two really big beans, and if you hold them up to the light you can see there's a good 6 or 7 seeds in these. So I'm going to pick all the beans that you wouldn't pick if you're going to eat, and they'll be the best ones in terms of giving me a good seed. And well, let me show you what ultimately they'll look like. There's one round here. So this is the sort of papery looking bean that you end up with, and when they get to that stage you can open them up and sure enough inside is a fantastic Tsar bean waiting to be sown for next year. And I'll pick up any of these that I see because they just are going to be ready that much sooner. And there's 3 perfect beans sitting in that dried pod, and if they got a bit of a brown tinge on them, which some of them have, that's just a drying process. I do look out for any bugs or holes in the beans and make sure that I don't use those for saved seed. Right, let's get on and find what I can. There's the beans laid out. I always dry the beans in the polytunnel, and you get plenty of air around them so they don't go fausty. I've got a sort of 2 or 3 different categories here. We've got these that are fairly green and will take a little while, and we've got these that are yellowing. They won't be long before they look like these, and these are almost ready to shell into just straightforward beans just to dry off. And once I've shelled them, I'll dry them in here a little bit further and then into a brown paper bag, probably ready for next season. And well, I have about 30 plants out on that row, and therefore there's 3 or 4 out of each, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and you can see I've easily got 30 seed. And probably when I strip down those beans there might be a few more that I harvest for seed purposes. So pretty straightforward process, no real effort. And occasionally it pays to buy new seed, but I've got to be honest, these Tsar beans have been going for some years now and I don't seem to have any problems with them. It's going well. No strain on my neck because they break away so easily. It does help that I've got these really strong poles in here, because it just means that it's got rigidity and it makes them easier to pull off. And I know in previous years, when I've done this job and people have watched, they've said to me, don't take the roots of the plant out of the soil, because there's an awful lot of chance that they'll regrow. So I might just do that, see what happens. Maybe cut them down fairly low and see whether I get any reshooting early on in the year. And any of these brown papery ones that I'm finding, I'm keeping, so that I've got even more beans than I really need. You know what it's like, you put in the right amount and some won't come. So it's important to have some spares. Right, I'll carry on. It always impresses me how different it looks once you take the beans down, and that was no effort at all. Just needed to take care, but all the green stems snap off real easily. I'm going to leave it like that for a day or two. Got a bit of weeding to do, but I'm going to select my time to do that. But the main thing is that they're down. A few bit of scraggly ends that you invariably miss, but everything's gone on top of this trampoline cover that I've put on the soil just to keep it weed free. And this old runner bean leaves and stems and beans always makes good compost in my experience. So I'm going to keep it here. There's no point taking it over there when ultimately it's got to come back over here somewhere. And the jury's still out as to where I put compost bins. I'm really favouring along here because it's so far away from the edge of the plot where I get that ingress of bindweed and other tenacious weeds that invariably ruin the compost. So compost down that end is not really a practical idea. Okay, so that's given me a whole load more beans for seed, and I picked all the papery ones as I went along, and there'll be another, oh gosh, 100 at least seeds there. So I'll get those into the polytunnel and they can dry out along with all the others. So that's been a good job. It always feels like you've achieved a lot once you've got the beans down. Okay, I'll get these in place. That's it, beans done. So they'll dry out now, and I'll have plenty, way more than I need. But as I say, it's good to have spares. Many of you have an inquisitive robin. I certainly have one, and I've just opened the polytunnel and found that he was in here. So I opened the door and walked away. With a bit of luck, he's gone now. Certainly doesn't look like he's hung around, but they do like to come and see what you're up to, don't they? Well, that's me done for today. I need to take it fairly carefully, as you can imagine, but don't worry about me. It's going well. I'm healing nicely, just taking the necessary precautions. If you've enjoyed my video today, give me a thumbs up, and why not subscribe? And hopefully I'll see you very soon. In fact, every Wednesday and every Sunday at 8 p.m. Diolch yn fawr.